When we look at the real estate headlines right now, everyone wants to know if a wave of distress is coming for Austin. So we need to separate scary national news from what is actually happening right here in our local neighborhoods. So let's take a look at verified data to see if Austin is headed for a foreclosure crisis like a lot of people think they are. I'm Nick Garcia with All City Real Estate, local real estate agent here in Austin surrounding areas. So why don't we get into it? All right. So we need to monitor the data closely, right? We can't rely on headlines that tend to cause a little bit of a panic. So while foreclosure filings are ticking up, the evidence simply does not point to an Austin-wide foreclosure crisis. What we actually have is a slower, more negotiable market, not a flood of distressed inventory. The national headlines are not making things up because foreclosure activity is genuinely higher than it was this time last year. Over 200,000 properties received a filing in the first half of the year. But we have to remember that a filing represents a legal notice or auction start, not an immediate market collapse. It's not what is happening here. So when we look at the actual scale of these numbers, the perspective definitely starts to shift. So only a tiny fraction of all housing units received a filing nationwide. A year over year increase deserves our attention, but it is not proof of a broader housing crash or crisis. Texas is running a bit higher than the national average with nearly 22,000 filings in the first half of the year. That puts the state filing rate at about one in every 550 homes. But remember that statewide figures blend many different regional markets and do not describe what is happening right here in Austin specifically. So let's look past the raw filings and ask what a real housing crisis actually demands. So, a true wave of distress requires more than just rising default notices. We need to see sustained surges in actual delinquencies, forced price cuts, and flood level inventory. But national data from the Mortgage Bankers Association shows the foreclosure inventory rate sitting at just 64 one hundredths of a percent. So overall rates remain well below historic norms. So while filings are technically climbing, the broader plumbing of the mortgage market is not breaking. And that brings us directly to how our local region is performing. So let us bring this down to the local level across Austin, Round Rock, San Marcos metro areas. Despite all the scary national headlines, local transaction volume is actually moving in an upward direction. We saw nearly 2,700 closed sales in July, marking a 4.4% bump year over year. Pending sales followed the exact same path, rising about 4%. Even the median price held firm at $435,000, up 1% year over year. So people are still buying and selling homes every single day. Critics love to claim that Austin is drowning in excess inventory and we have a lot of desperate sellers that are slashing prices, but the actual numbers tell a completely different story. One problem with the sellers is that some of them have those COVID numbers in mind. So you have a really high starting list price, and then they have to slash the price because nobody's touring their houses. The market is telling them that their house is priced too low, and then they slash the price and you think like, oh my God, prices are coming down. But active listings dropped nearly 10% year over year in July, down to just under 14,000 homes. So months of supply actually shrank by more than a full month to 4.7 months. The market is not flooded with distressed properties or overwhelmed with a sudden wave of inventory. So if the market is not crashing or flooding, what has actually changed? Negotiation has officially returned to the table. Average days on market sitting around 63 days, climbing a little bit, which is virtually unchanged from last year. And homes are closing at about 93.7% of list price. Buyers finally have room to breathe and compare their options. Right now, for lack of a better word, buyers are and can be a lot pickier. But sellers are no longer naming any price that they want. This has been happening for a few years now. We need precise pricing and strong presentation to win. If you want to sell your house, it's all about the price. And the price is not on a big level, it's on a very neighborhood, localized level. So now that we know where the Austin market stands, let's translate these insights into practical steps. Buyers shouldn't wait around for a massive wave of distress inventory. That just isn't coming. Instead, focus your decisions on your personal financial timeline and proper property evaluation, neighborhood valuation, schools, do all those things. Sellers face a more balanced and negotiable environment. So be ready to cover some closing costs, some buy downs, and probably reduce your price and sell for less than you want to. You got to price your home right for today's active competition, because a slightly longer selling cycle doesn't mean the local market is broken. You just have to be realistic about that number. And for any homeowners feeling genuine financial pressure, reach out to your mortgage servicer early and seek professional guidance. Sell your house before you have to go through that process, because if you let it get to that point, it just makes everything harder. So let's look at the specific indicators that you should monitor as we get into the second half of the year. So how do we keep our finger on the pulse in this market without getting spooked by those headlines? So we watch the leading indicators. So keep an eye on local foreclosure filings and lender-owned inventory right here in Central Texas. Track broader delinquency trends by loan type to catch any emerging stressors early. And continue monitoring the local active listings, pending sales, and close to list ratios. And you can do that by subscribing to this channel. And the current verdict remains clear. Looking at the big picture, Austin is a market to watch carefully, but it's not facing a foreclosure distress crisis. Thanks so much for your time today. Thanks for watching, subscribe. And of course, if you're interested in buying or selling in the Austin area, information is down below. Talk to you next time.